Hello, sixth grade. Welcome to Unit 8. Our next unit is all about algebraic representations of two variable relationships. Today's specific focus for day one lesson is the coordinate plane. Our learning objective is 611A. So a coordinate plane has a two-dimensional surface formed by the intersection of two number lines called axes. You have the x-axis, which is the horizontal axis, and it is going to run left and right. And you have the vertical axis, which is going to run up and down, and that is called the y-axis. Now, in order to find the address on this coordinate plane, we use what is called ordered pairs. A ordered pair is a set of two numbers written in the form of open parentheses x comma y close parentheses. And this is going to give a location or an address for a specific point on the coordinate plane. Now, when you hear the word address, you're probably thinking of where you live. And the United States Postal Service uses your address to know where to find you when they're delivering mail, maybe it's packages, gifts. So your address is where to find you. An ordered pair is an address on where to find a specific point on the coordinate plane. Now let's talk about some parts on this coordinate plane. So here's your coordinate plane. The very middle of the coordinate plane is called the origin, and that is located right here in the very middle where your x-axis and your y-axis intersect each other. So let's give your axes some names. So this is the x-axis. I'll put a little X there. It runs left and right or horizontal. And then your vertical axis that runs up and down is called the y-axis. Now, the very middle of the origin is called 0, 0, because at that point right here at 0, 0, both the x value and the y value are 0. There is no value. It's the beginning of those, the middle neutral 0 point of those number lines. Now, quadrants are also broken up into 4 sections, and we use Roman numerals to label and number those ordered pairs. So the first quadrant that we have is quadrant 1. So we're going to give it a little Roman numeral of an I. Working to the left, and we are going to go counterclockwise. So I'm going to move these numbers up so you can see them a little better. So we have quadrant 1 starting in the top right corner. Moving counterclockwise to your left, you'll have quadrant 2. Continuing counterclockwise to the left, you have quadrant 3. We'll move that up a little. And then finally, the last quadrant in the bottom right-hand corner is quadrant 4. And if we put a 1 in front of a V, that is how we indicate 4 with Roman numerals. V is 5 in Roman numerals, so if we put the 1 before it, we are subtracting 1, and that is how we get 4. If you put the 1 after the V, then you're adding 1, and that would give you 6 in Roman numerals. Okay, so this coordinate plane, we labeled the parts of the coordinate plane as your x-axis and your y-axis. We highlighted the origin here with our purple circles. And then we also labeled our quadrants 1 through 4. Now let's discuss how to plot coordinates on the ordered pair using your x-coordinate, your y-coordinate. Your x-coordinate is going to be your number for the horizontal axis, and you're going to be moving left or right. The second y-coordinate is going to be the up and down. So let's practice plotting some points. We're going to plot and label the ordered pairs on the coordinate plane and then identify where the ordered pairs lie on the coordinate plane. Our first point is A. A is going to be located at 5. This is where we are. We're at 5, 2. This is our first ordered pair. We're going to start at 0. If our first number is 5, we're going to go to the right to 5 on the x-axis. And then our second number is 2, so we're going to go up to 2 on the y-axis. We're going to plot our point here, and then we're going to label it. And we're going to label it with a capital A. And let's make that purple so our colors are all consistent. So then it asks us, identify where the ordered pairs lie on the coordinate plane. We are in quadrant 1. So I am going to put Q for quadrant, and then I'm going to put our number 1. Let's practice this again with point B. So we are at point B. On our address is -3, 2. So we start at 0. Our first number is -3, so we're going to go to the left to -3 on the x-axis. Then we have comma 2. The second number is up or down on your y-axis. So we're going to go up to where it says 2. Oh, I forgot to change our color. We're going to go up to 2. We're going to plot our point. And then we're going to label it with a capital B. So now this point is located at B. I'm going to try a different drawing tool. These are a little too large. So I'm going to do a smaller little dot, keeping true to our color pattern. And I am going to erase our bigger dot because we don't want the big circles. We want to be able to read where our point is. So we're just going to clean that up a little. Okay, our final point to plot, sorry, that's like a tongue twister, is at C, and it is located at 0, -6. So we're going to start at the origin and we're going to stay at 0 because that is our x value. And because we have a -6, that means we're going to go down on our number line until we get to -6. That is where we're going to plot our point. And then let's label it as point C. Now let's finish putting where these points are located. So point B is located in quadrant 2. So I'm going to put a Q2 to represent quadrant 2. But C is not located in a quadrant. It's not in quadrant 3. It's not in quadrant 4. It is right in the middle. And so for this quadrant, we're going to put what axis that it is on. And it is on our y-axis. So that is how we will label where it is located. Okay, on the y-axis. I'm going to make this a little smaller so we can fit it on the y-axis. Okay. Now, I'm going to add a point. I'm going to add another point. Let me finish color coordinating here to keep everything consistent with our points. Now, the last point that I'm going to add, we're going to use green. And I'm going to call this point D because I'd like to give you an example of a value that is located on the x-axis. And I want to show you how it would look different. So I'm going to choose my point of -4, 0, close parentheses, and this is our example of point D. Okay? Now, point D, let me put our little blank line just like we have in our notes previously. First, let's plot the point. As always, start at the origin at 0, 0. If your x value is -4, you're going to go to the left of 0 and stop at -4. And your y value is 0. So that is where we're going to stop and plot our point for -4, 0. Now the difference is that this time it is located on the x-axis. Okay, so now you have an example of it being on the y-axis and on the x-axis. And you have an example of those lines being located in different quadrants. So let's flip on over. Actually, let's finish going down to the on my notes, it's on the back, but for your purposes, they are going to be printed double-sided. And so you should have picked up 2 papers off of the table this morning. The print shop had a little error, so the back of your paper is blank, so we've just got a small second paper to add on to that. So please turn your attention to the second paper, and it looks like this. And it says, use the coordinate plane to answer the following questions. Here is our coordinate plane. Let's give a quick little review of some of our locations. This red dot is your origin. We're going to have quadrant 1 is right here on the right side. If you move counterclockwise to here, you have quadrant 2. Continuing moving counterclockwise to your left, you have quadrant 3. And then the last quadrant on the bottom right corner is quadrant 4. So we have labeled our quadrants. Now let's label your x-axis. We might make this a little bigger. Your x-axis is the axis running left and right. And it does have a small little x right there, but we're going to make it a little bigger by putting our own. And then your y-axis is the one running up and down vertically. Now it says, what is the scale of the coordinate plane? What's the scale of our plane? They're referring to how the units are being counted. So if we start at the origin at 0, 0, we see that we've got our grid lines, and then our bolded lines stop at +1 or -1, depending on if you're going to the left or the right of the number line. So that means that your dotted lines in the middle are counting. So you'll put it is counting by 2500ths or 1/4. It's going by quarters. That is how your units are being counted. So if you were to start at the origin and move 1, 2, 3, 4 places, there's 4 quarters and $1. So each dotted line is representing a quarter. Our second question says, what is the ordered pair of point A? Well, first let's locate point A. Point A is in quadrant 2, and we need to find the specific address. So we're going to work backwards. We're going to go to the point, and I'm going to go straight down from the point until I hit the x-axis to see that it is located at, always put an open parentheses when you're writing your ordered pairs. We're to the left of 0, so that is going to be a -2500ths. You can write it as a decimal or you can write it as a fraction. Now let's go back to our point A, and this time we're going to find what the y value is. So from the point, go straight to your right until you hit the y-axis, and you're going to see that it is at 1/2 because it is halfway between 0 and 1. Now let's give you examples of writing this as a fraction. Please remember that if you are to the left of 0 or below 0, those values are going to be negative. So that concludes part 1 of day 1 lesson. We're going to move on and start recording part 2 to finish the notes. Thank you.